Welcome to the 18th episode of the Nordic Sports News Podcast, the world's first cross-country ski and biathlon podcast, with the latest daily news from around the globe. Today, we start our news with the cross-country ski race report from Muonio, Finland. Sergey Ustiugov, Russia, and Laura Gimmler, Germany, dominate the sprint. Ustiugov dominated the classic 1.4 km sprint in Muonio. There is no doubt that this first race of the winter will reassure the Russian, who has gone through ups and downs this summer. At Olos, the 29-year-old cross-country skier did indeed beat his opponents in the final. The final had three Norwegians, with Erik Valnes, Torgeir Solund Hovland, and Vebjørn Moen, in the gate. At the finish line, Ustiugov edged his compatriot Alexander Tarantev and Italy's Federico Pellegrino, who had trained since the spring with Marcus Kramer's training squad. As often, the Finns, who were playing at home, are missing. The first duel therefore turns to the advantage of the Russians. In the quarterfinals, Sergey Ustiugov and Gleb Rytevik had already gained the upper hand over Vebjørn Moen, fourth in the morning qualifications. In the semifinals, everything then accelerated. Qualifying leader Erik Valnes dominated the first race. He even finished ahead of the winner of the day, who had finished 14th in the prologue. The second was won by Alexander Tarantev, on the second step of the sprint podium 2 years ago. Federico Pellegrino qualified narrowly on time. For 0.04 of a second, Sergey Ardash, fifth in qualifying and third in the last sprint at Muonio, did not pass, just like Ilya Semikov, fourth in 2019. In 2019, the Russians had largely dominated the sprint, with their 6 athletes present in the final. This year, without their star Alexander Bolshanov, the winner of the last edition, forfeit, Russia could therefore count on another of its stars. Erik Valnes, fourth, was helpless in the face of the Russian show of force. It was an eventful final, with a very high pace from the start. I tried to give my all on the last climb, but because of the snowy weather they were able to catch up and pass me. And when it snows as much as here, the track is very slippery, and when they took off on the descent, I couldn't come back, declared the team sprint world champion from Oberstdorf, Germany, in comments collected by Landgren. For the women, Natalia Nepraeva couldn't do it again. The 26-year-old Russian, victorious in the last classic sprint on the same track, could not do better than fifth. Laura Gimmler, first in the morning qualifying, won. In the final, 2 other Germans were also in contention for the final victory, Victoria Karl and Sophie Krul. In the standings, Finland's Ann Kalanen, second in 2019 and third in qualifying, took second place. Victoria Karl occupied the third step of the podium. Tomorrow, at 9 a.m., skiers will line up for the 10 km Classic Women and the 15 km Classic Men. Now, we turn our heads to the biathlon world. The news is about the last-minute withdrawal for the Norwegian biathlete Johannes Thingnes. We will have to wait for another 2 weeks before we see Johannes in action again. The winner of the last 3 overall standings of the World Cup has in fact abdicated the competitions that will take place tomorrow and Sunday in Suzhou. The Norwegian Association has announced that Bo will not take part in the competitions due to a mild cold. At this point, the world champion will make his seasonal debut directly in Östersund on November 27th. And to wrap up our news today, we have some news about Siegfried Mazet, the shooting coach for the Norwegian biathlon team. At the end of his contract with Norway at the end of winter, Siegfried Mazet still does not know what 2022 to 2023 will be like. Last April, when taking stock of the past season, Siegfried Mazet, 43, told Nordic magazine that he didn't know what he would do after the Beijing 2022 Olympic Games. This is because the French, at the end of winter, will reach the end of his contract binding him to the Norwegian Biathlon Association. I come to crossroads. Imagine the shooting coach at the time. Either take a straight line and continue where I am, or I apply the handbrake and branch off. I'm starting to think about it a bit because I don't want to rush a decision next April. Obviously, the former mentor of Martin Fourcade has made very little progress in his thinking. I haven't signed anything yet and I don't even know what's going to happen, he just said to Match TV website. I do not know if I am ready to leave the Norwegian ship now, he explained in Nordic magazine columns last spring. Giving his preference to Norway, Siegfried Mazet also reveals that it would be difficult for him to train the Russians because of their little command of English. It's something important, he confirms. And that's all for today, folks. Stay tuned and subscribe to our channels on YouTube, Spotify and Instagram. Just type Nordic Sports News on these platforms and access our content. Thank you so much and see you tomorrow in the next episode. Information credits for Fondo Italia, Ski Nordic, Nordic Mag and Match TV.